Military special forces in fiction have a distinct rule of cool attached to them. This can especially apply when they aren't the main focus, with this somehow making them retain this distinct level of uniqueness and identity despite being overshadowed by their compatriots. In this case, quite literally. The ODSTs, or orbital drop shock troopers, are what happens when you take this idea and jack it up to 11. Their armor, aesthetic, and weapons leaning into the James Cameron's Aliens motif and style that is core to the DNA of the Halo franchise as a whole, and I'd be lying if I didn't say I thought they were cooler than Spartans for a significant portion of my life. The ODSTs are the best unaugmented soldiers the UNSC has to offer, with them seeing a significant amount of action during the Human Covenant War and the fight against the insurrection preceding it. The first use was during the interplanetary wars between the years of 2164 and 2170, a conflict which is not covered heavily in Halo lore since it lacks Forerunners, aliens, and the Flood that we are so accustomed to seeing within the setting. The main role being as shock troopers, being a rapid response force, being the science fiction equivalent of paratroopers, with them being deployed from orbit in what can be described as little more than a metal coffin, allowing for rapid deployment of ODSTs across a region en masse. This has earned them the nickname Helljumpers, with the mantra "feet first into hell" becoming more than just a slogan but a statement of intent as well. They're highly qualified and well-trained soldiers capable of performing operations outside of traditional shock assault role, ranging from sabotage, infiltration, removal of special targets, and other methods of warfare. The ODSTs are so well regarded that there is a company of ODSTs, 340th ODST Combat Training Unit, which exists only to serve as Op-4 in training exercises against other UNSC special forces, ranging from Oni agents to Spartans. The ODSTs generally are quite arrogant and proud of their role, as they have a significant amount of pride in the fact that they are the best of the best. And this amount of confidence and stubbornness has led to a borderline self-destructive level of fanaticism and devotion to the mission, with almost all ODSTs maintaining the idea that any mission can be completed with the proper mindset and drive. This has unfortunately led to many operations resulting in high casualties, but despite this, many of those high casualty operations would largely prove themselves successful. ODST training as well is especially difficult, as it is easily the most grueling and brutal training regime possible, only behind the Spartan program in terms of extremity, which makes sense since the modern ODSTs derive a lot of their organizational structure and training from the lessons learned during the Orion Project. ODSTs must master physical fitness, strategy, adaptivity to adverse environments, and weapons training before even being considered being selected for the ODST training program, which, if you flunk out of, is noted as being a particularly humiliating experience. This training program almost exclusively pulls from other special forces units within the UNSC, putting them at the top of the food chain, with many UNSC military personnel hoping to become one someday. And if you think that's ridiculous, the ODSTs themselves also have exclusive special units within their branch, with the ODST Special Purpose Forces being even more highly trained and qualified than standard ODSTs. A notable example of these would be the Bullfrogs seen in Halo Reach. Now, this level of skill and dedication could put someone in the mental state of mind thinking that they're, for the lack of a better word, hot shit. But when the 7-foot-tall armored super soldiers, aka Spartans, came onto the scene in 2525, the ODSTs were a bit jealous, and by jealous, I mean having a inferiority complex to rival basically anybody's, and this has led to an irrational one-sided hatred between the ODSTs and Spartans, which came from a notorious incident where 3 ODSTs, under orders from Major Silva, a character in Halo the Flood, and literally almost destroyed the entire human race. Seriously, during the Battle of Installation 04, the Truth and Reconciliation was being repaired by human forces to escape the ring and head back to Earth. But what he didn't know is that there was a bunch of Flood forms hiding on the ship. And Melissa McKay, another ODST, noticed this because of Private Jenkins, who at that point was under control of the Flood, somehow broke control from the hive mind and said, "Hey, there's a bunch of Flood hiding on the ship, blow it up." And despite knowing this, he said, "No, we're going back," so she just detonated the ship against his orders. The reason he disregarded it is because he wanted ODST glory points because he was tired of the Spartans, quote, stealing their thunder. Real swell guy. Anyways, Silva ordered these 3 ODSTs to get into a boxing ring with a 14-year-old freshly augmented Master Chief because of some altercation which resulted in someone dropping a weight on their foot in the weight room. The 3 ODSTs and Chief stepped in the boxing ring, and the fist fight lasted about 5 seconds, with 2 out of the 3 ODSTs straight up killed, and one of them basically paralyzed for the rest of their life. This story would begin to spread among all ODSTs, and would suffer from the telephone effect, even with the story at one point being labeled as Chief just straight up attacking 3 defenseless ODSTs for no reason, even though these grown men were trying to attack a child. Yeah, this event would lead to a lot of ODSTs pathologically hating Spartans, and it didn't help the fact that ODSTs were often deployed alongside Spartans for special missions, which did not help their animosity. I would also like to add that this entire event was orchestrated by Oni to test how a freshly augmented Spartan outside of armor would do in hand-to-hand combat against humans. So all the more reason to hate Oni past them being Oni. The ODST equipment, and especially their armor, or the BDU, is incredibly versatile, protective, and modular, making it easily the best non-power armored suit available to humans outside of variants of SPI that were of use by Spartan 3s and Oni agents of the time. The helmet, chest piece, and all its various pieces are also compatible with Mjolnir as well. Due to their highly specialized and adaptable nature, they have basically every single weapon the UNSC has ever produced available to them depending on mission requirements. This can range from the standard MA5 series of rifles, the M7 SMG and its variants along with the battle rifle and DMR, all the way up to the M99 stanchion, which is a railgun-style Gauss rifle hybrid that is really freaking huge, incredibly powerful, and it doesn't show up in any of the games outside of Halo Wars 2, despite being a constant in the expanded fiction. The ODSTs were used in almost every major battle during the Human Covenant War, as many critical victories and situations were resolved because of ODST intervention. Notable occasions include the Battle of Arcadia, where they assisted Red Team in the Spirit of Fire in the defense of the planet, the attack on Corbulo Academy, the Battle of Hat Yai, which consisted almost entirely of ODSTs fighting the Covenant, the guerrilla war against the Covenant on Alpha Halo, the Battle of Reach where they fought to keep civilians safe during the extraction efforts in New Alexandria and the rest of the planet, and during the defense of Earth, the fight on Installation 05, and the conflict on the Ark. All of these operations were reliant on ODST support, as without them, these conflicts would potentially have been lost without the expertise of the men and women underneath the ODST umbrella. Most of the heavily decorated ODSTs would then be recruited into the Spartan 4 program after the war, including the likes of Sarah Palmer, most of Alpha 9, including Buck, Romeo, Dutch, and Gretchen, along with a significant portion of Fireteam Majestic being former ODSTs. The ODSTs overall are a unique science fiction military force, and they have a lot to offer not only in terms of storytelling, but are just really, really cool. And the games do not do a good enough job representing how cool and effective they actually are. And if you want to learn more about them, I would highly recommend looking into some of the expanded fiction. Halo the Flood, Halo New Blood, the Halo Legends short The Babysitter, the short story Dirt, the Kilo 5 trilogy, and Halo 3 ODST, obviously, along with its tie-in comic Halo Helljumpers, are all a really great place to start. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great night.